Good morning everyone. This is the 13th of January here on my daily stitching, and I will say again, there won't be a video every day, so it isn't a daily video, although I do daily stitching. So you can see that I've got 12 little blocks done now, and I'm starting to build up firstly a colour palette, and secondly I'm starting to build up a range of marks. So I'm trying to create some kind of compositional balance and variety and harmony by varying the direction of the lines and by varying the density of pattern. So I have a few sparsely filled areas here and some more densely filled ones, just for, you know, variety and balance. Incidentally, these little trees that you can see here, I will do those again in the spring with maybe some little leaves on. They're very easily done, it's just literally straight stitch, but I'll do one of those again later in the year. Now I'm looking at today's and I see something quite interesting in it. I don't know if you can see on the camera, I can probably see it easier than you, but there is a little irregularity in the weave here. Some people would call that a flaw in the linen. I think it's really interesting. So what I'm going to try and do today is kind of replicate it deliberately on purpose. So I will do some longer sort of grey lines, and then I may do some little white stitches across them. So I've been having a look through my grey threads and I've picked out a few, well, I will pick out a few here. So I'm trying to match the colour of this slightly grey area here, and I think that might be a little bit too pale. That's probably a little bit too blue. And these are all Silk Pearl 12, by the way. I think I might go with that one actually. So let's start and see how we get on. So I'm going to start this grey thread somewhere on the back. I'm just going to go underneath one of these grid lines. Just a couple of back stitches, no knot. It's fairly secure. And then I'm going to randomly come up about there. Let's see where we are. Possibly a little bit higher, I think. And I'm just going to do some random horizontal stitches. And I'm not worried about the floats at all because I'm going to come back and stitch over them with a finer white thread. So I'm just going to continue placing these lines here and there, and then we'll come back and do something else over the top of it. Okay, so I've done all these long grey straight stitches. I've taken some of them kind of off the page, as it were, just to, you know, make it look as if it's not filling a box, you know, so it looks sort of part of something bigger. And then I've got a very fine white thread, and you could, I guess, use regular white cotton sewing thread for this, the kind of thread you would put in a machine. And I'm just taking some very, very tiny straight stitches over these grey lines, and that's why I wasn't too worried about the long floats. Because a long straight stitch like that, you know, you can easily pull it and snag it. But I'm just going to go over each of these with a very tiny stitch. And this may work or it may not, you know, it may look really rubbish. And the great thing about this is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all if you do a square that you don't like one day. It really doesn't matter. because by the time the whole thing's full and finished, you won't even notice the ones that you didn't like. So, you know, my advice is don't unpick, don't start again, just let it be what it is, whatever that might be, and just keep going. I'm finding these little white stitches look better if I extend them slightly beyond the grey line. You can see I've done that there. You can probably not see it on the camera, but I can see it. It's very subtle. So I'm just going to carry on those little stitches. Maybe 2 or 3 stitches extra. Right, I'm just putting the last few stitches in this one, and it's very subtle, but I quite like it. And actually I could have used a paler grey, I think, because this one is sort of fading into the background a little bit now, but I think if I had used a paler grey, you wouldn't have been able to see it quite so clearly. Anyway, it is what it is. Doesn't matter. Okay, just about finished here. So just to say that sometimes, you know, when you get an imperfection in your fabric, the temptation sometimes is to cover it up, you know, to disguise it with something. But if you actually accentuate it and bring out the imperfections, I think that's a useful thing to do. I think it's useful to reflect on our imperfections, because, you know, perfection is overrated, I think. And imperfection is much more expressive, much more individual and unique. So I'm just going to finish that thread off just with a couple of back stitches, and then I might just thread it through the back of there just to keep that tail down. And there we are, 13th of January. And have fun with your own stitching today. Bye for now.